Hi there everyone and welcome to the latest episode of What Makes This Plane Great. In today's episode we will be talking about a fighter that was a lot of the time inferior to the enemy aircraft it came up against, but held its own. The plane we're talking about today is the American single-engine fighter, the Curtiss P-40 Warhawk, also known as the Tomahawk or the Kittyhawk. So if the P-40 was inferior to enemy aircraft, such as the Messerschmitt Bf 109, the Mitsubishi A6M0, or the Focke-Wulf FW190, why was it a great plane, I hear you ask? Well, the gist of it was that it was a rugged and low-cost aircraft that had good low-altitude performance, and was produced in good numbers early in the war. Another way of putting it is the fact it was always there when you needed it. The great things I'm going to talk about in this episode all link back to what I just said, and the fact it was able to hold its own against better enemy aircraft. One great thing about the P-40 was that it served many Allied forces in multiple theatres in and throughout the war. While the P-40 didn't have the performance for the high altitude nature of the war in northwestern Europe, it had major roles in other theatres in the war, where high altitude performance didn't matter as much. The greatest example of the P-40 performing well was with the Flying Tiger squadrons in China. While the P-40s couldn't match the Japanese fighters, like the earlier made Nate and the later made Oscars and Zeros in a slow turn fight, P-40s could match them at higher speed, and the P-40 pilots learnt to use boom and zoom tactics to down many Japanese fighters. Of course, as well, Flying Tiger P-40s downed many Japanese bombers, that until the P-40s arrived, they were able to bomb China with pretty much no opposition. Another great example of the P-40 performing well against very agile Japanese fighters was in the China-Burma India theatre with the United States Army Air Force. They remained in use in the CBI theatre until 1944, and some pilots even preferred it over the P-51 Mustang. The great thing you could say about the P-40 in this theatre was that you could say it dominated the skies, claiming about 65% of enemy aircraft shot down, and it was also used successfully as a fighter bomber too. One of my favourite facts with the P-40 was that it was the first plane that the 99th Fighter Squadron was equipped with. The 99th Fighter Squadron was the first black fighter squadron and the first to be deployed overseas. They were able to score against enemy aircraft like the Bf 109 and the FW190 until February 1944, when they were replaced with later aircraft like the P-51 Mustang. Another great thing about the P-40 was that it was the main fighter used by the Royal Australian Air Force in the war, even used in greater numbers than the Spitfire. They played a crucial role in the Southwest Pacific Theatre, fighting as frontline fighters early in the Pacific War. The fact it was a pretty rugged aircraft that had good bomb carrying capabilities of about 1,000 pounds or 454 kilos made it good for ground attack and fighter bomber roles too. Many Australian pilots considered it a reliable aircraft, and the RAAF fighter squadrons in this theatre converted to the P-51 Mustang in late 1945, and the P-40 was retired by the Australian Air Force in 1947. One last great thing I'll talk about with the P-40 was when they were used by the Soviet Air Forces. Again, with the lower altitude nature of the Russian dogfighting, they were able to prove that it was capable of combating the menace of the Russian skies, the Messerschmitt Bf 109. While its armament might not have been as good as the Russian fighters, it tended to have better range and fuel capacity than the Russian fighter planes at the time. So that's it for this episode of What Makes This Plane Great. Please like and subscribe, and please check out my CD reviews on this channel too. Cheers.